Uncensored, no holds barred talk. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is Global Reality Radio Network.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another live edition of the Global Reality right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. This is the Monday Moonbat edition of the broadcast. Monday, April 11th, now into the 12th of 2011. Glad you could join us here tonight. And we're going to be getting into all the news of the day, as well as any topics of discussion that you out there, the listeners, might have. If you have topics of discussion, if you have questions, anything else you'd like to hear me address on the broadcast tonight, send over email at globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. And I'll be happy to answer any questions you have or talk about any topics you may have here tonight. We're also going to continue reading from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. I was having trouble. Maybe you guys in the chat room can help me remember. We had some issues with chapter 18 or something, right? Well, we did get a new copy of this, but we're moving on to chapter 19, correct? That is the next chapter we're starting. Anybody in the chat room there that might know? I believe it's chapter 19 should be where we're picking up tonight. I haven't looked at it in a few days, so I couldn't quite remember. And it wasn't until I didn't really realize I couldn't remember where it was at until just a few minutes before we started here tonight. So I believe that's where, if I'm looking at it, that's where we left off, because we talked about, we got through the last chapter that was about the Black Death. And then I believe Luther and the Rose is the next chapter. So, correct? I don't know. Either way, if that's not where we're at, you can go back and read this on your own. I'm going to start tonight on chapter 19, Luther and the Rose. How about that? And if we skipped any, well, we skipped any, but that's just the way it is. But that's where we'll be starting at here tonight on the broadcast. So please do that. Also, I have set a tentative release date for The Secret Right Volume 2. Mark this on your calendar, 5/5/11, May 5th, 2011. I'm setting that as a tentative release date. I've got to come up with between $600 and $1,000 to finish this thing out, to get I've got to pay the artist to do the artwork. I've got some other little things I've got to get going on here. So we've got to raise this cash soon. So if anybody out there can help us out with that amount, use the donate button. We're pushing to get this thing out by the 5th of May. So there may be some weeks where we don't have as many radio shows between now and then, or something of that nature. But we've been bringing on guests, and we're going to be bringing on more guests for you. So that's going to push that up as well. So. Getting real close to that. So May 5th, 2011, we'll have an online release there. That won't be the day. You won't be receiving DVDs that day, but that'll be the day it'll be released. And those of you that pre-ordered your discs will get them before anybody else will. So anybody who orders their DVDs past this Friday, which will be the 15th of this month. So anybody who orders their DVDs past this Friday It's going to take an additional week or so to get your DVDs if you order them past this Friday, because everybody who has pre-ordered them already will get theirs first, and they'll get extra stuff and all that. So just please help out if you can there on our final push to get this done. It's getting a lot closer now, and then it's exciting time. It's like birthing a baby into the world. It's great stuff. It's exciting. Bringing out something new that I made for all of you to see. It's greatness. It really is. So there you go. Use the donate button there if you can. The achievement banner is just for the bills for the month, so just use that for that kind of stuff. But and please support us there as well if you can. Keep us commercial free and uncensored for you here tonight. And boy, oh boy, we got a lot of stuff to talk about. Again, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. You want to get questions in here tonight? I'd love to hear from you. Have been getting some great ones. In fact, I think I probably got a few here tonight I should read. I should probably maybe just do that straight out of the side hatch here. Let's see. This one says, hey, man, thanks for your show. I want to ask you something and also suggest a show idea. The question is, one day I pointed out a pic online of the so-called moon flag in a studio with a NASA astronauts and a family, and they were all like rehearsing shit or something. You said you were going to order the pic. Well, did you ever get a copy of that pic? Wow. As a matter of fact, yeah, I did, and I did talk about it on the show afterwards. But man, that was well over a year ago. Maybe a year and a half ago. Yeah, that was a long time ago. That was maybe like January 2010. But yeah, I did order that picture, and you can see clear as day in this picture. There's a fucking, they're in a goddamn hangar, and there's an astronaut there, and he's holding a fucking flag that's the identical one that was on the moon. It's stiff and everything. You can see the fucking wire going through the top of it that makes it stiff. Now, flags don't stay stiff like that in Earth gravity, now do they? So yeah, I thought I'd almost forgotten about that. It had been so long. Now for the show idea, and maybe you already talked about this. If so, can you please point me to a show date if possible? I've been looking at these news anchors gone gibberish on YouTube, and I think deserves a show done on it. Yeah. Wow. Again, maybe you're just not paying attention to the shows close enough. I did indeed talk about that. Problem is, I talk about so much stuff and I deal with so much of this nonsense every goddamn day that sometimes it jumbles together and I can't remember what I talked about what day. So I do know that info when I talked about that is somewhere on YouTube. I don't exactly know what particular date it was that I talked about it, but it has been sometime in the past couple of weeks. It's at the very beginning of the show. It may even be labeled important info or something like that on the archives on our archive section at my website, theglobalreality.com. But so it's kind of odd there. Yeah, I have talked about both those things, my friend. So I guess maybe you're not listening close enough to the shows. Maybe you're missing it when I'm talking about it. I don't know, but it is all there. So there you go. Let's move on to the next one. Yeah, strange. Sometimes these emails are kind of chasing their own tail, so to speak. You know what I mean? Here's a great one. Kind of long, but I'll read it because she's awesome. So this was comes to us from Psy Girl in the chat room. She's probably not listening right now. She's probably asleep, but she'll probably be listening later on. So anyway, we'll give a big shout out to Psy Girl nonetheless. She's a great chatter and always contributes great information. Always has good things to say, and she's been a big help with my work for some time now, and I really appreciate her being around. Jerome Corsi was featured on this morning's drive being interviewed by a major 2 right-wing Tea Party AM talk radio station. Corsi's been a regular guest on the station in the past. It was featured primarily to push the Obama birther narrative and also to push the Tea Party as an authentic populist grassroots movement. Well, they're starting to roll old Corsi out a little bit. He's been on the sidelines. He's been a good a good yes man for them. I mean, like I said, I've talked about Corsi before because I met him in person, and he was a nice fella. I mean, you know, he was completely open about being in the Council for National Policy. Didn't seem to act like it was any kind of a big deal. I mean, a complete about face to some of these other people like Schlafly and others who, you know, I mean, literally they just about shit themselves when you say the name. Like, oh my God, you know, this fucking troglodyte knows the name of our group. Oh my God, you know. And so when I had a chance to meet Jerome Corsi when I was going to get recon at one of these Freedom 21 conferences back in 2008, when I shot some of the footage that's in the Secret Ride Volume 1 there. And yeah, you know, I mean, it was just, I was sort of thinking I was going to go in there all guns blazing, you know, that was sort of my game plan. You know, I was going to go in there with camera rolling, you know, getting up in there. You need to tell me right now about this Council for National Policy, blah, 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 blah. And we'd had some listeners that had donated to get us there and get us in because it was very expensive to do it. And I had a sort of a last minute change of heart the day of this conference. And I said, you know what? I'm not going to do that. You know, because I was really, it was a big turning point for me. That was a real big moment for me personally as a man, because you know, it was right sort of at that point where I had known about the Council for National Policy for about a year. I'd been researching it for about a year at that, almost exactly a year at that point. And I was still fighting with that, you know, with that truther, excuse me, that truther patriot movement mentality, you know. Go in there all guns blazing, cowboy style with the camera rolling, you know, and get a good YouTube clip that's going to go viral and get passed around. But then in the long range scheme of things, is probably going to be forgotten about in a week or two. And you really didn't achieve anything. You just made yourself look like a stark, raving fucking lunatic in front of people you're trying to get information on. So I had a change of heart on that, and so I decided not to go in like that. And it was to me, I think it was the best thing I did, because I got to go in and essentially, you know, just talk to these people. And a lot of them, you know, a lot of the issues and stuff they were talking about this thing, it's, you know, it's just like, it really was more of a macrocosmic version, a much larger version of what you deal microcosmically with the Alex Jones phenomenon, you know, because a lot of what he talks about, you know, real stuff, real info, you know, it really is. And so a lot of these, you know, the stuff these guys were talking about, and it's hard for me to argue with a lot of the things they were talking about, because they were talking about the UN and the UN land grabs, and they were talking about, you know, whatever other issue, gun stuff, gun rights, Second Amendment stuff. But a lot of it, you know, on the surface, it's like, yeah, I mean, you can't really argue with it. But what I found was how open they were. If they thought you were, well, I mean, there wasn't anybody there that wasn't white. Let's just get that out of the way. I mean, my God, I've never been around so many white people, and I'm fucking white as the fucking driven snow. And I felt uncomfortable. There's so goddamn many white people there. I mean, it was ridiculous. And I loved how no, there was nothing plastic. I mean, the food, this thing was amazing. Lunch, dinner, I mean, just most amazing food. I don't know where they got this food from. It was amazing. It was 5-star. I've never had anything like it in my life. Nothing served on plastic. Not a plastic fork to be seen. All the water was in metal containers. Everything was metal. I'm sitting there going, yeah, you motherfuckers aren't eating off that shit now, are you? You sure as fuck aren't. You're not drinking out of that plastic shit now, or you sure as fuck aren't. But here I am, you know, and I'm sitting here going, wow, everything we get is in plastic and everything else. So, of course, you know, I saw him over there, and I went over and talked to him, and you know, he was a nice fella. I mean, I asked him about the Council for National Policy. He didn't want to do anything on camera, which I understood. You know, I was like, hey, no, that's no problem. That's what I wanted him to do. I was going to ask him if he wanted to, like, you know, talk about the Council for National Policy on video for me, but he just said he was too busy and he had a bunch of stuff to do. And what was strange about it was we're kind of in this little, was in this kind of a banquet room, right? And they had a little table set up. The John Birch Society had their full spread there. Oh, it was ridiculous. Full blown John Birch Society, New American Magazine, as far as the eyes could see, and they're just raking in donations. But it was strange because Corsi had like a little desk set up. He had a little desk set up over there where the booths and everything were at with a Macintosh. And he was just kind of sitting over there like it was, doing work in the middle of a lot of these conferences going on. So it was very strange. But Side Girl here is basically saying that it's a long email. I don't know if I have time to read it all. But basically that they're bringing him out. They're bringing him to push this birther thing. You've got Donald Trump now pushing it as well. And I really think the point of her email is that, yeah, in the past, you may not have seen a lot of stuff out of this person over here who's a member of the Council for National Policy. And maybe they sit on the sidelines and they're not very vocal for a while. But then a certain issue comes out, and the next thing you know, here comes so-and-so CMP member out of the, off the sidelines, and all of a sudden they're being very vocal about this issue, and they're on Fox News and whatever have you. So it's a great case in point that, what I've talked about, what I discovered several years ago, Lee talks about this as well in his show, the fact that they assign individual agents, I call them agents, but that's essentially what they are. Assign individual members of the Council for National Policy to certain issues. And sometimes they're sitting on the sideline waiting until that issue is brought out to the public. Then they roll out their stooge to give the official line that represents that way of thinking. And then the divide and conquer is continued and everything else. So thanks to Side Girl there for that. Let's see what else we have here. Oh, I wanted to mention wanted to thank William Henry again for being on with us last week. That was a spectacular show. I was really, really happy with that. I got a great vibe from that guy. He's actually today he was actually in Washington, D.C. today filming with the History Channel for talking about the apotheosis of George Washington for the new series or the new season of Ancient Aliens on the History Channel. So that's a cool little inside tip there. Yeah, he's going to be on the new season of Ancient Aliens next year. So this coming year, that should be exciting. We'll definitely be actually those should be coming on pretty soon, I imagine. And I monitor those because they've been more and more coming out with stuff. I just thought it was kind of an odd thing. I was like, well, I was kind of thinking, what are they going to do an episode on? I mean, if they're going to get William Henry to be on Ancient Aliens to talk about the apotheosis of George Washington, and being that the person that painted the same frescoes in the Vatican. And, I've always thought that whole painting, the apotheosis of George Washington, actually was, if you switch that around and make it, because there, a lot of people believe, and there is speculation that George Washington and Adam Weishaupt, founder of the Bavarian Illuminati, were both the same person, much in the same way that Sir Francis Bacon and William Shakespeare were the same person. So when I look at that and I think of it as the apotheosis of Adam Weishaupt, and you think about that painting in terms of the because apotheosis, of course, is like it's like the revealing of the apocalypse or the revealing of the age. So the revealing that the apotheosis of Adam Weishaupt, that painting would seem to represent the culmination of the achieving of the great work. So I'd be very interested to see. They must going to be doing something in terms of the founding fathers and aliens and extraterrestrials and Masons. It's got to be something like that. Otherwise, man, they'd have to go a lot deeper than I think they probably ever would on the History Channel. Although they've gone deeper with some stuff than I ever thought they would on TV. I mean, my God. Some of the stuff they talked about on the last season, I was like, come on, dude. The people were laughing at me 3 years ago for talking about that shit when I first got on air. 2007, 2008, people were laughing at me. Now it's on History Channel. So I'm just thinking, the only way you could really connect that would be to get into some of the more deeper aspects and the Jesuit connection and all the rest of that. So I don't know. We'll see. We shall see. But yeah, I really did enjoy the show of Mr. Bramley. I didn't. Somebody was asking me because, well, in the past, let me get a drink here. In the past, I had I talked about the time I had David Icke on, and I was sort of, I don't know, I feel like I was a victim of psychic vampirism. I mean, twice. Once when I interviewed him, and another time when I saw him in person. But some people always like to ask me, when I have on certain guests. But no, I didn't feel that way from William Bramley at all. I mean, I'm not William Bramley, William Henry. I keep saying that. We were going to have William Bramley on the 18th. They got all these Williams coming on. I can't even deal with it. William Henry, rather, didn't get any bad vibes from the interview with him, and hopefully we'll have him on again or whatever else. But it was good. I think I made him aware of some little tidbits of information maybe he hadn't caught on to. It's shocking to me sometimes. Almost everybody I've ever interviewed, I've brought out stuff during the interviews that coincides right with their information. But oftentimes they don't find it. It's happened to me with Tsarian, I think, a couple of times when I had him on. He got me on one time. That fucker. He's awesome. I love Tsarian. He's so cool. He got me one time. He was like, I don't remember what he said. He was like, well, do you know what that means, Josh? Let me ask you. Do you know what that means? Tell me. And I didn't know it. He's like, see? That's great. I need to go. I am going to try to get Tsarian on again for you at some point. He's just awesome. But yeah, I forget what I was going to say. But no, oftentimes that's happened with a lot of people I've researched on. I'll throw little things out there. It just seems odd to me that some of these researchers at their level, at the level of somebody going on Coast to Coast AM or doing whatever. I don't know. It's just amazing to me that it just seems like sometimes these guys, like, they get to a point and they stop. You know what I mean? Like, they get to a point in their research and then that's it. And then every show they go on after that, they just regurgitate the same stuff or whatever. And I don't know. It just seems odd to me that every time I've interviewed somebody, I've interviewed a lot of these people, I tend to throw out things out there while I'm talking on the show, and sometimes it throws them for a loop. They're like, oh, I don't know that, whatever. It's weird. I don't know quite how to take that. Do I take that as a compliment? Because, I don't know. I guess when you're at that, when you're at that level and you're doing dates and all that stuff, maybe you don't have time to do as much research. But I mean, that's what this is about for me. So sometimes, when I notice that there are these researchers and presenters and whatever else that sometimes seem to have, I don't know, just a governor or a fucking some sort of, something holding them back when it comes to research. I'm just skeptical of that. I'm just really like, really? I mean, when I saw David Icke in person, he did like a 2 hour, 3 hour intro, hour and a half lunch break, come back. He does like another 3 or 4 hour presentation, straight up reptilian, full tilt boogie. Then he comes back at the end, does another presentation till the evening time and tells everybody that, humanity's got to unite. And the tip top of the pyramid, you need to look no further, is the Rothschilds. And I just went, I am insulted. I was insulted. I traveled, me and my friends, we traveled all this way to see this guy. And because we consider ourselves researchers, people who do their homework, This guy proceeds to say to our face in his presentation that the Rothschilds are the tip top of the pyramid. And there's nothing higher. I mean, the gall. I felt fucking insulted. I was like, how dare you insult my intelligence by telling me that all of your years and years of research have culminated in telling you that the goddamn Rothschilds are on top. I mean, that's when I was done with David Icke. I mean, forget everything else. I mean, dude, you could have told me the reptiles were on top, and I probably would have given you more credibility. Seriously, he didn't even say that. He didn't even insinuate that the Rothschilds were reptiles. If you just would have straight up said the reptiles are running the show, I probably would have been like, well, I can't argue with that. Let's move on. You know, but no. It's the Rothschilds. That's the tip top of the pyramid. There isn't, what was interesting about this is that he reinforced that. He didn't just say the Rothschilds are the tip top of the pyramid. He reinforced it several times during that presentation by saying, you need look no further. And right when I said that, Man Hydra put that in the chat room. He typed it before I said it. That's fucking weird. How did you know I was going to say that? I don't know, man. Does running my website give you the ability to get inside my brain? If so, you're fired. You need look no further than the Rothschilds. Yes, I'm David Icke. I'm here to tell you today that you bloody wankers need to send me a check right now. Oh, man. That is good. I should do a whole show as David Icke. It would be great. People would love it. They're ripping off me bloody books everywhere. The Rothschilds are the tip top. You need look no further. By the way, I'm a reptile. There it is. I think he is a reptile. Seriously. Oh, man. It's out of control. Let's see if we have anything else in the mailbag tonight. Yes, the bag. Oh, someone pointed out in the movie Cocoon, the aliens take off their skin suits and they are light beings. Dun, dun, dun. Yes, you are correct. Light beings, yes. Trying to see. Here's one that says, hey, Josh, thanks for your interview with William Henry. Truly good stuff and so goddamn well-mannered in your way. I can't wait for the Bramley interview. I hope you're reading ahead of your show and complete the book before your interview upcoming. Yeah, I don't know about that. But it's not going to matter. It's not going to matter. I'm pretty good. I'm pretty good when I have guests on. I mean, I know how to flow and I know what to talk about and that kind of thing. I'm not really worried about if I finish the book or not. I do want to look at some of his other stuff, but we'll see how it goes. You know, he seems to be a pretty chill guy, so I think it'll be fun. I'm surprised that Desarian only had a few passages from Bramley in his Atlantis book after reading and listening to the Gods of Eden. Well, yeah, I don't know. I've sort of noticed a lot of people, a lot of things have been sampled from Bramley. I've definitely, a lot of people have quoted from him. Quite a few, actually. He's probably one of these guys. I mean, you know, because like I said, he doing this is not his actual full-time job. He just kind of does it as a hobby and whatnot. But I don't. It does kind of seem to me that that they haven't tried to give this guy a lot of attention. Bramley, that is, and I think it has to do fully with the fact that he's 100% connecting the priest class and the custodians and the extraterrestrials together, and the creators of religion and the multinational corporations and governments and everything as one entity. And I mean, with everything else that we know about the Council for National Policy and the Controlled Patriot Movement, the Controlled Truth Movement, I mean, we just can't sit here and just think that, you know, that book basically has been blacklisted. I mean, you don't see it in you know, you don't see a lot of people talking about it. And I think that's why. I think it fingers the entities and fingers the people that they created this phony truth movement around to keep people from looking into. That's why you've always heard Alex Jones and all these people, oh, yeah, the Anunnaki thing, blah, blah, blah. That's why it makes sense to me why these, you know, these dipshit wannabe radio hacks that do Patriot radio shows. There's a bunch of them over there at Oracle Broadcasting. But a bunch of them, they used to, you know, always groan and snicker and make comments when I was talking about that stuff. And, you know, and I know why now. Bunch of Catholics, all of them. Not people on Oracle, but I mean, just, you know, people out there who don't like talking about this type of information. It's ridiculous. But anyway, yeah, everybody seems to like the Bramley stuff, so we'll definitely get back into that here tonight for you on the broadcast. We have quite a bit of news here. Man, we've already been going 32 minutes. Whew. Already need a breather. There is a bunch of news to get into tonight. Man, oh man, I don't even know where to start. It's kind of one of those, wow. One of those overwhelming type of things. Man, there's a lot. I don't even know what to talk about. We'll see. If you want to get any more emails in tonight, globalrealityshow@gmail.com. Somebody sent an email that says, Ike last year in radio interviews mentioned the Jesuits, but no history, no dot connecting. He did it once on Jones, and it was awkward. He's doing a lecture in Rome. Wouldn't mind knowing if he would edit. Yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, that dude's slimy. I just, like I said, I feel like I got roped in by another one of these hucksters after fucking the experiences I had with David Icke. Yeah, impossibly difficult guest to get on to, as far as, I don't know, it's a bunch of BS. We called his house, and he wasn't there. It was just ridiculous. But let's see what else. Yeah, I think I'm gonna take a break here and come back. And when we come back, we're gonna do a full section nonstop segment of news and blow through all this stuff that we have today as far as news is concerned. Then we'll come back and we'll get into Bramley's book tonight. I'd love to hear from you. globalrealityshow@gmail.com. That's globalrealityshow@gmail.com. And I would be happy to read anything you have on the air for you here tonight. All right, back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us. Monday, Moonbat Madness. Yes, we're up late and we're Moonbatty, and we're going to be getting into a lot of news for you here tonight. So glad you could join us. And we will be getting into all kinds of interesting news. You guys heard about this, I'm sure by now, but this new vault that the FBI has opened up. Anybody else but me think the timing of this is interesting? You know how they always do this when there's some big thing going on. And my God, the conditioning and the mental bombardment that has surrounded this Japanese earthquake, tsunami, and nuclear power disaster has been unbelievable, the likes of which I've personally never seen. I mean, it really is worse than 9/11 as far as the cognitive dissonance and the sheer confusion that they've been causing with this. So we'll talk about that a bit tonight. Well, this vault, we've got a couple of stories from that. A couple other things that tie in there. Some goofy propaganda We've got a few science-related stories. We've got quite a few science-related stories, actually. So we'll be jumping into all this right now for you here tonight. In case you haven't heard, the FBI opened up this this thing they're calling the Vault. Flying saucers, 9/11 hijackers feature in FBI's new online records. Featuring searchable dossiers on characters as wide-ranging as Al Capone, Marilyn Monroe, Notorious B.I.G., and the 9/11 hijackers. The FBI has upgraded its online public records to provide more than 2,000 digitized documents, FoxNews.com reported on Wednesday. Welcome to the Vault, a fascinating new electronic reading room that can be accessed at vault.fbi.gov. The new website significantly increases the number of available FBI files. Now, as with most files that they release, they're redacted, but again, it's the timing of this. Because now this gets, researchers and whoever else digging in this stuff instead of looking into, some of this other stuff that's going on or whatever have you. But one of the more interesting stories that has come out has confirmed that there were indeed saucers on the ground in Roswell, New Mexico in 1947. Now, there is a very interesting thing here as well, and we'll talk about this as we read the article here. The memo that proves aliens landed at Roswell released online by the FBI. A bizarre memo that appears to prove that aliens did land in New Mexico prior to 1950 has been published by the FBI. Now, first off, why would you say it like that? I mean, I don't understand why you would phrase it. It proves that they did land in Mexico prior to 1950. Why don't you just say 1947? Was there another confirmed landing in 1950 that we don't know about? That wasn't contested? It makes you think that, doesn't it? But that's not the only thing that's odd about this. Let's continue here. The Bureau has made thousands of files available in a new online resource called The Vault. Among them is a memo to the director from Guy Hottle, the special agent in charge of the Washington field office in 1950. In the memo, whose subject line is flying saucers, Agent Hottle reveals that an Air Force investigator had stated that 3 so-called flying saucers had been recovered in Mexico. The investigator gave the information to a special agent, he said. The FBI has censored both the agent and the investigator's identity. Agent Hottle went on to write that they were described as being circular in shape with raised centers, approximately 50 feet in diameter. Each one was occupied by 3 bodies of human shape, but only 3 feet tall, he stated. The bodies were dressed in metallic cloth of a very fine texture. Each body was bandaged in a similar manner to the blackout suits used by speed flyers and test pilots. He said that the informant, whose identity was censored in the memo, claimed that the saucers had been found in New Mexico due to the fact that the government has a very high-powered radar set up in that area, and it's believed that the radar interferes with the controlling mechanism of the saucers. He then said that the special agent did not attempt to investigate further. The release of the secret memo is likely to fuel conspiracy theorist claims of a government cover-up. The town of Roswell in New Mexico became infamous after reports that a flying saucer had crashed in a desert near a military base there on or around July 2nd, 1947. Yeah, so this goes on to talk about what they believe of the whole thing with the Roswell. It says that military authorities issued a press release which began the many rumors regarding the flying disc became a reality yesterday when the intelligence officer of the 509th Bomb Group of the 8th Air Force, Roswell Army Airfield, was fortunate enough to gain possession of a disc. The headline screamed flying disc captured by Air Force, yet just 24 hours later, the military changed their story and claimed the object that they first thought was a flying disc was a weather balloon that had crashed on a nearby ranch. Another memo published in the Vault from 1947 claimed that an object purporting to be a flying disc had been recovered near Roswell. The disc was hexagonal in shape and suspended from a balloon by a cable, according to the memo, marked as urgent. Now, isn't that interesting? Now, so this is sort of creating more cognitive dissonance here. The memo noted that the disc resembled a weather balloon, but claimed that a telephone conversation between the Air Force and the field office had not borne out this belief. Hold on one second. My goddamn cat. I swear to God, I'm about to throw this fucking cat out in the goddamn street. Jesus. I don't know what his fucking deal is. He just tortures me day and night now. For no reason. He's fed. Don't get it. Start talking on the radio show and he starts meowing. And just for no reason. He doesn't need anything. Just wants to be a dick. So they're saying that there was a disc that was hexagonal shape and it was suspended from a balloon by a cable. So they're saying that there was. I mean, this almost seems like it was staged. Like they staged these flying saucers. You know, having a disc and a balloon stuck together. It's almost as they were using this to create the disinfo. So it's a very interesting story there. And it just makes you wonder, why now? Why are they releasing this? What are they prepping us for? Because it does seem like there is this slow and steady program to get us acclimated with, yes, UFOs have been here, blah, 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 blah. Somebody sent me a message and said it was Wilhelm Reich's Cloudbuster that brought it down. I don't know. I guess it very well could be. I don't think anybody really knows for sure. I've also heard that we already had space-based offensive weapons in order to shoot down UFOs by that time, and that they had already been tracking these things and they had shot them down. I mean, I've heard a lot of different things. You know what I mean? Any of them probably just as believable as the next. The whole thing, Wilhelm Reich, and, I don't know. I don't know if that happened or didn't happen, but it very well could have. Like I said, I mean, it's very likely, as much as anything else is, I guess. Let's see what else we have here tonight. I had talked about the idea of a lot of people were speculating that the Japanese disaster was a result of, some sort of attempt to keep Iran from being provided with nuclear fuel from Japan. We read an article here on the radio show a week or two ago that talked about, was from a couple of years ago, and talked about how Japan was going to be supplying Iran with nuclear fuel for their Bushehr nuclear plant. And it seems now that Russia is now going to be providing nuclear fuel for Iran's nuclear plant. So I'm wondering now, are we going to see some sort of event in Russia? Are we going to see some sort of, they're due, aren't they? Notice how there were never any natural disasters or anything like that in Russia ever. Anybody else with me think that's odd? And don't forget, Russia is what a lot of people don't realize is Russia really is the center of the, Ashkenazi white bloodline power of the world. They really are. If you research into the bloodlines, it's amazing how many of the roads lead back from the bloodlines all the way back to Russia. It's really, really crazy. But I don't know. I predict that we're going to see something happening big in Russia now because of this news coming out. Iran Friday began reloading nuclear fuel into the reactor of its Bushehr nuclear power plant. The refueling is being carried out after a series of checks completed on the plant, said Russian state-run contractor Atomstroy Export, which is carrying out the task. The construction of the plant started in 1975 by German companies. In February this year, upon Russia's request, Iran temporarily removed the fuel from the reactor core in order to conduct a number of tests and carry out technical work. So keep your eye on Russia. There could be some big moves coming there. We'll just have to see. What else do we have here tonight? This is great. This is, I mean, my God, if this doesn't speak to this whole, now they're trying to use science and phony science at that to push the idea that people who are conservatives or people who are liberals or whatever else have you have different brains and different brain structures and the rest of this. Well, look, give me a fucking break here, number one. What is the scientific purpose for coming out with this information or this article or anything else? There is none. Well, them damn liberals, they just got them brains wired different than we do. Oh, and those dirty conservatives. Those dirty conservatives, their brains are Neanderthal brains, yes. Look, the fact of the matter is, your brain is going to wire in whatever particular way you're programmed. It literally does that. But they're trying to use this, oh, yeah, blah, blah, blah. God, have you ever heard anything in your life more divide and conquer than this? Oh, well, you know, people who are conservative and liberal must be different. They have brains that are wired differently. Oh, you're different than me. Yeah. Let's use scientific evidence now to prove why we should be against each other as people. Fuck these people. Hey, let's get a fucking brain scan of the elite in here. Can we get that? That's what I want to see. I want to see how different these motherfuckers' brains are to ours. Oh, but we can't have that. No, no, no. Seriously, that's what I want to know. I mean, this is such horse shit. These motherfuckers in charge of the problem, not you and I, not us. But they need us and have done this for years. We've been reading Bramley's Gods of Eating talks about that. My God. Everyone knows that liberals and conservatives butt heads when it comes to worldviews, but scientists have now shown that their brains are actually built differently. Liberals have more gray matter in part of their brain associated with understanding complexity, while the conservative brain is bigger in the section related to processing fear. Oh, be hard to argue with that. I think the point of the matter is these goddamn political parties are programming people's minds and their brains, no matter if they're left, right, or anything else. That's a problem. I mean, fuck left, right, conservative, liberal, whatever have you. I don't give a fuck about all that. The fact of the matter is, these people are programming us to be against each other. We found that greater liberalism was associated with increased gray matter volume in the anterior cingulate cortex, whereas greater conservatism was associated with increased volume in the right amygdala, said the study. It's unbelievable, folks. You believe they're trying to perpetrate this on us? And people are going to buy into this shit, too. That's the whole problem. Because, you know, you package it up, you put it out on the AFP, you make it look official, and people believe it's the goddamn truth. But it's just another way to get us believing that we're different from each other. No, we are different than these sons of bitches, these custodial bastards who have been keeping us in bondage and slavery since time immemorial. They are the problem, not us. When are we going to unite as a people and realize that the greatest detriment to our lives and life on this planet are the elite motherfuckers running this show? Not you and I. But they reinforce it with culture. They reinforce it with movies. Humans are the problem. Humans are the problem. No, you're the fucking problem. None of us ever asked to have the rise of the industrial age and all this pollution. No, they forced this upon us. They forced everything upon us against our will. And now they say, oh, well, you have to pay this tax or you have to have this and you have to pay $5 gallon gas because, you know. because we're polluting the planet. So you need to pay more for that because you helped create it there, human. You got the voluntary extinction program, all this stuff, killing yourself for Mother Earth. Go right ahead. I'm waiting on you. I'll buy the bullet, you fucker. You guys hear about this? This is very interesting to me. I mean, the timing of this, I don't know. I'm sure the Nibiru clowns are out there going, "Oh, it's proof, it's a sign. The dark leader has returned." Cosmic blast in distant galaxy that has so far lasted for 11 days puzzles scientists. Reminiscent of a Space Invaders computer game from the early 1980s, this is actually a cosmic blast in a distant galaxy. The extraordinary gamma-ray explosion was observed on March 28th by NASA's SWIFT satellite. It has left astronomers scratching their heads because it has so far lasted an incredible 11 days. Flaring from such an event usually lasts a couple of hours, but scientists are perplexed by this blast because, unusually, the effects are so long-lasting. More than a week later, they are continuing to see high-energy radiation spiking and fading at the source. The burst was likely caused by a star that was ripped apart after drifting too close to a supermassive black hole. Since the aftermath, the Hubble Space Telescope and Chandra X-ray Observatory have focused on the aftermath. Hubble will observe if the galaxy's core changes brightness in the coming days. The galaxy is 3.8 billion light years from Earth. Each light year is about 6 trillion miles. So yeah, very odd stuff there. They can't figure out why this thing. Yeah, it's like a new like a star has just exploded or who knows what. So it's very, 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 very strange. Let's see what else we have here tonight. About 1 in 10 cancers in men and 1 in 33 in women in Western Europe countries are caused by current or past alcohol consumption. Alcohol, a major cause of cancer. And, you don't hear about that very much. Well, a lot of people that drink also smoke. And so oftentimes cigarettes are the ultimate scapegoat. You know what I mean? I mean, everybody thinks that if you smoke and you get cancer, that automatically your cancer came as a result of your smoking. And had you not smoked, you wouldn't have gotten cancer. And that's not necessarily always true. But it's funny how we've been conditioned as a people to believe that. And most people do believe that. They believe that if you smoke, eventually you get cancer and you die. And that's not always the case, number one. And number two, alcohol is responsible for a great many more cancers than people believe because it's just not looked at the same way. You know what I mean? People don't consider alcohol to have a stigma attached to it where, oh, hey, man, what, you're drinking that beer? Oh, you shouldn't drink that beer, man. It's going to give you cancer. People don't say that. But if you light up a cigarette, people say, hey, man, you shouldn't be smoking those. You know, they'll give you cancer. Well, alcohol, and I've known this for years, and I've just fought losing battle after losing battle trying to argue with people about this. But it is a fact if you look at the scientific data, there are people who have gotten cancer and died at very young ages who've never smoked a cigarette in their life. And then people just go, oh, man, I can't figure it out, you know. He worked out, he didn't smoke, you know, blah, blah, blah. Did he drink? Well, yeah, he drank, but that's no big deal. I can't figure out why this person would get cancer and die at such a young age. Well, that's because it's ultimately, alcohol is way more destructive to the human body than we've ever let on. The human body is actually not meant to imbibe alcohol. But they attach this thing to smoking, and then, you know, if you smoke and you get cancer, automatically it was from the cigarettes, not from the processed foods, not from the fluoride in your water, not from the MSG, you know, not from the preservatives, not from the dyes in your food, not from the, you know, any of this other horse shit, not from breathing polluted air or you know, natural gas fracking. No. Automatically, if you get cancer, it had to be because you were a smoker. That's just a falsehood. They're using it to I mean, look at fucking George Burns. My God. George Burns smoked those fucking stogies till he fucking croaked, man, at 90 something. What was it? Fucking damn near 100? Jesus Christ. Those things are worse for you than anything. Speaking of fracking here, check this out. Gas from fracking could be twice as bad as coal for the climate, says a study. Shale gas produced by hydraulic fracturing or fracking could create as much as twice the greenhouse gases as coal, according to a study soon to be published by Cornell University professors. Over the past few years, the Washington, D.C. consensus has been that the shale gas is better for the environment than coal. President Obama has praised natural gas and given it partial credit in his proposed clean energy standard. But Cornell professor Robert Howarth argues in a new study that making natural gas available through fracking contributes more to global warming than conventional gas and coal over 20 years. Well, hell yeah, it does. And it's because of the things that they use in the process to do this. Natural gas is composed largely of methane, and 3.6 to 7.9% of the methane from shale gas production escapes to the atmosphere in venting and leaks over the lifetime of a well. These methane emissions are at least 30% more than, and perhaps more than twice as great as those from conventional gas. The higher emissions from shale gas occur at the time wells are hydraulically fractured, as methane escapes from the flowback return fluids and during drill out following the fracturing. The footprint for shale gas is greater than that for conventional gas or oil when viewed on any time horizon, but particularly so over 20 years compared to coal. The footprint shale of gas is at least 20% greater and perhaps more than twice as great on the 20-year horizon than is comparable with when compared over 100 years. So, yeah, I mean, you don't have to tell me. I know that shit's bad. I mean, again, they say that this was in the movie Gasland as well, where I found out about this, and I looked it up. It's absolutely true. The natural gas wells that are around my area, the Dallas-Fort Worth area, account for more. This is why we have red ozone alert days. You'll hear this locally here. Maybe this is in your town too, but here in Dallas, you hear it on the radio, you hear it on the news. They'll say it's an orange ozone alert day or a yellow ozone alert day or a red ozone alert day. And we have there's certain days when it's hot outside and that you're not supposed to go out there at a certain time because literally they say if it's in a red day, a red ozone day, and you're out there too long outside, it literally, the ozone in the atmosphere, it burns holes in your lungs. And they don't announce that too much, but it's absolutely true. If you're out there working and you're like working in the, like people doing yard work and stuff, or if you go out, you can't go out for too many hours in a day on a red alert day because it'll burn fucking holes in your lungs, folks. And in Gasland, they had an interesting tidbit of info in there. The natural gas fracked wells around Dallas-Fort Worth area account for more toxic emissions, more emissions in the atmosphere per year than every car, truck, and airplane and motor vehicle in the Dallas-Fort Worth area combined per year. And let me tell you, there's a lot of goddamn people here and a lot of goddamn trucks, cars, and airplanes. My goodness. Let's see what else we have here on the menu tonight. Match made in heaven. Earth finds new companion as giant asteroid joins its path around the sun. Earth has found a new companion that has joined its orbit around the sun, scientists have revealed. It may not have the most romantic of names, but asteroid 2010 SO16 could pursue Earth from anywhere between the next 120,000 to a million years. And at a few hundred meters across, it is the largest space rock ever discovered so close to Earth. But there is something unusual about SO16, say Apostolos Christou and David Asher, who discovered the giant floating rock last September at the Armagh Observatory in Northern Ireland. Rather than follow its new friend all the way around, SO16 orbits the sun in a horseshoe shape. That's odd. Almost as if it was artificially put there. That's very suspect. Playing a constant game of catch-up with Earth, they say. The closer to the sun an object is, the faster it will orbit. So when SO16 entered the sun's orbit, it was further away from the Earth and therefore slower. When Earth finally caught up, I smell bullshit all over the place. This smells like a cover story. When Earth finally caught up with the asteroid, instead of overtaking it, its gravitational pull drew it closer to the sun, sending it back round at a faster pace. Now, quicker than Earth, SO-16 speeds round its shorter orbit until it catches Earth again and is this time pulled away from the sun, slowing it down. More simply, from the point of view of the Earth, the asteroid has a horseshoe-shaped orbit, constantly moving towards and away from the Earth without ever passing it. But from the asteroid's point of view, it orbits the sun continuously in the same direction, more quickly in smaller orbits and slowly in bigger ones. At the moment, SO-16 is traveling at one of the closest approach points and will be visible in the evening sky for several decades to come. This thing just seems odd to me. Let's see what else we have here. Reading our minds, scientists create computer controlled by the power of thought. Well, they've had this for a long time, I'm sure. A computer controlled by the power of thought has been created by scientists in a breakthrough that could one day help people unable to speak or move. In tests, volunteers were able to move a cursor on a screen simply by saying words in their heads. The study could have massive implications for patients who have lost the power of speech through brain injury or stroke. It could also help disabled people control wheelchairs or robotic arms. It could even, and let's see, notice how they give you all this. Oh, it's great. It's gonna help people and people who can't use computers and people who are disabled. It's gonna help them out. And then they throw this in right at the very end, and could even revolutionize the computer games industry. So first they sell us on, oh, this is great. It's wonderful. It's philanthropic, it's going to help people out. It's going to make their lives better. Also, we could use this as a goddamn controller. Oh, you sold me. Put a fork in me. I'm done. You're a closer. You close the deal. I give a fuck if it helps people control wheelchairs or arms or fucking disabled people or people who have strokes. Fuck them. This is a fucking game controller, motherfucker. You mean I can run around in fucking Grand Theft Auto by using my mind? Oh, it's over now. Yeah, because I've been held back by these thumbs since 8-bit Nintendo days, but not anymore. I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you with the brain implant. I'm going to run around. I'm going to drive cars. I'm going to run over your mom in a 52 station wagon. I'm going to tear shit up. Brain implants, baby. Yes. The wave of the future. I'm kidding here. I'm totally against this. Fuck you. I'm not getting I don't give a damn. I don't want to play a game that much. I'm not getting the iBrain. Now the iBrain. Download all your favorite MP3s directly into your brain, your cerebral cortex at light breaking speed. Brought to you by LG. Oh, it's just totally ridiculous. And, after several weeks of, we need to be scared about the radiation. Oh, we don't need to be scared about the radiation. And now they've just gotten people through cognitive dissonance. Most people don't care. People are not really concerned about whether or not radiation is going to be harmful to us. And we still should be alarmed about this. We still should be aware of this. I mean, my God, they found it in milk, I think, in Little Rock, Arkansas, for God's sakes, already. So what does this mean is the question. I mean, does this mean we shit ourselves, or does this mean, I don't know, I'm just confused. Japan to raise nuclear severity level to maximum. So they're taking us up to DEFCON 1, I guess. Japan is to raise its assessment of the severity of its nuclear emergency to a maximum 7 on an international scale, putting it on par with Chernobyl, reports said Tuesday. The government currently rates the incident at 5. But we'll boost that to 7, Kyoto and NHK said, citing unnamed sources. So they're taking it up to the maximum international level for a disaster here now. I don't think this is over. Does anybody but me think that could be a connection to the U.S. Navy firing this laser? U.S. Navy has fired a laser gun from one of its ships for the first time. Researchers used the high energy level laser to disable a boat by setting fire to its engines off the coast of California. Very well could be they may be getting ready to go in and zap this power plant with this. Maybe this is why they're testing it. I don't know. Hey, Mud Puppy, if you're in the chat room and you're listening, this one's for you. Hopefully this didn't happen. This won't happen to you, my friend, but this is fucked up. Listen to this. This is out of Wisconsin, by the way. St. Francis man finds live missile in a bathroom wall. How the fuck does that happen? Hey, Ma, get in here. I'm on a shitter. I'm high as a kite. There's a goddamn missile on this wall. I don't give a damn how high I am. Shit. A week after she and her husband found a live bomb from the Korean War era in a bathroom wall of their home, St. Francis resident Sally Ann Whitman says the discovery now seems almost unreal. Whitman's 70-year-old husband, William, was doing some remodeling on a portion of the bathroom wall on April 5th. Whitman was pulling out of an old insulation when he heard something fall in the wall. He felt something in the wall, his wife said. I heard him say, "Oh, my God, what the heck is this?" I walked in, and he was standing there holding this thing in his hands. The small green missile, measuring 20 inches long with a 5-inch explosive head and 4 tail fins, was handed to her by her husband. Then she walked outside and placed it on the grass next to a detached garage before calling police. As she waited for police to arrive, Sally Ann said she was doing dishes in the kitchen when she saw a St. Francis police officer approach her yard in the 2000 block of East Leroy Avenue with extreme caution. The officer advised the Whitmans in no uncertain terms to evacuate the house immediately, as well as people living in the surrounding neighborhood. With streets cordoned off and the residential area, well, my God, it was in their house for God knows how long. It didn't blow up. You really need all that theatrics? Jesus Christ. You lived in the motherfucking house. You were banging on the walls, remodeling. It didn't blow up. God knows what else had gone on in that fucking house. They put it out in the yard and the cop has to cordon off the fucking area and evacuate. Give me a break. These motherfuckers just like blowing money and make everything look like a fucking, Hollywood production. With streets cordoned off in the residential area west of Lake Parkway, it took a bomb squad with the Milwaukee County Sheriff's Department 2 hours to arrive. And the bomb squad took them motherfuckers 2 hours to get there. Shit. They're like fucking out smoking a dude by the fucking lake. Huh? What? A missile in somebody's house, old lady's house? Oh, man, fuck that. The bomb was taken to the St. Francis Department of Public Works where it was safely detonated. The blast was heard all over town. One person told me that when she heard the blast, her son came running to see where it was coming from. A neighbor told Sally Ann Whitman the previous owner of the house was a World War II veteran and that his sons also served in the Korean War. Yeah, but who brings back a live missile, That's kind of a hell of a souvenir. Oh, I brought this back for you, boy. I mean, my grandfather was in the Korean War. He didn't have any fucking live missiles. Believe me, I'd have known about that. Chicago school bans some lunches brought from home. You believe this? Fernando Dominguez cut the figure of a young revolutionary leader during a recent period at an elementary lunch school. Who thinks the lunch is not good enough? So basically, I'm not going to read this, but what they're doing is they're not allowing people to bring their own lunches from home. They are now, if you are in this Chicago school district here, and you have kids in this school district, they are now not going to allow you to have your parental right to decide what your child eats for lunch at school. They have to eat the government mandated Soylent Green bullshit, or they don't eat it all. So you no longer have a choice to say, I want to prepare my own lunch for my child that I think is healthy. I want to give them this, and this to take for their lunch and it's healthy. No, you can't do that anymore. They eat the slop in the prison line, in the prison, or they don't eat anything. The schools are not centers for learning anymore, in case you didn't get the memo. These are training camps for kids that are going to be indentured servants in the future. To the multinational corporations, to the people that are not now buying up our country for pennies on the dollar. They are getting ready to do to us like they do in China. Everyone is a indentured servant to the state, and you're basically a prisoner. And if you're not that, you're going to go to prison anyway. We're going to put you into prison, so you might as well get used to it. That's what they're doing here. That's no bullshit. It's not a joke. They really are doing this now. I mean, it's unbelievable what they're doing here in the state of Texas, giving these kids these tests that are impossible to pass, and then when they don't pass them, the state gets to come in and take over the school. This is horseshit. And we just continue to get dumber and dumber and dumber, and we never stand up, we never question it, and we never speak out about it, and we make these asshats that want to stick their fucking heads in the sand like ostriches. We make them feel, we let us feel like we're the weird ones. No, they're the weird ones. They're the ones that won't wake up to this stuff. People need to be hopping mad about what they're doing, about how they're creating these centers, these programming centers. That's all they are. They want to program you for their new world, for the cog in the machine you're going to be. That's it. Obedient, never asking questions, nothing else. And oh man, oh man. Well, we're going to take a break, come back, and we're going to start reading from Bramley tonight, continuing on our reading from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. Hope you'll stay with us. Back here with you on the Global Reality, right here on the Global Reality Radio Network. I'm your host, Josh Reeves. Thank you for being with us here tonight for this Monday into Tuesday Moonbat edition of the broadcast. And we're going to be continuing our reading tonight from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden, Chapter 19, Luther and the Rose. So we'll be getting into that here for you in just a couple of minutes. And can't wait to have Mr. Bramley on the show. 1 week from today, or 1 week from yesterday, technically, the 18th, Monday, the 18th of April, 7 p.m., I believe, is what time we're scheduled to do that. And I love, that's another thing I love about doing the show at different times. I love having the ability to be able to give the guest, whatever time is good for them to come on. I think that's really good, and probably would do well, having guests and other that are overseas and stuff as well there. So also working feverishly to finish up the Secret Right Volume 2 and get that out, and can't wait for you all to see the movie, and I can't wait till I have everything else I got to have to get it done. I'm like, I don't know, about between $600 and $1,000 out from having this film done. If anybody can use the donate button and help us out with this amount immediately, that would be super duper, because then we could stay on track and have the movie released. I've set a release date for 5/5/11 for the film, The Secret Right Volume 2. I want to stay on that. We'll get into the funding we need here really quick, and I can stay on that on this time scale. We will have it out 5/5/11, a great release date, I thought, for that. And we'll have definitely have some secret screenings as well, probably that are some of our hardcore people who we'll get to see, the people who've been hanging out in the chat room, been around for a while. So we'll definitely let you know about that. But please support us if you can. Use the donate button there for that. We're trying to get this done, and it's my goal to have it out and have the release date for 5/5/11 and get it out by May 5th. And so please use the donate button there if you can. The shipping banner's there for the bills and everything else. We've only had we've over the past, I don't know, 2 or 3 weeks, we've had like 1 or 2 people donating, and that's just not going to get it done. We need more support. We need more help. Our listenership's going up. We're getting gigs. We're getting guests on for you here more and more. We're going to continue to do that, but we got to have an increase in our support right now, because we just need something substantial coming in. So please help out if you can. The chapter we're going to be starting on tonight, chapter 19, Luther and the Rose, from William Bramley's The Gods of Eden. The last chapter was kind of, I don't know, I'm just ready to move on. The Black Death stuff, blah, 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 whatever. It's just not really that interesting to me. Although, we should all be aware that depopulation and eugenics and all that stuff has been around for centuries. It's been around for a very long time, and it originates back with these custodial masters. And this is definitely why you see the people involved in eugenics happen to be tied in, of course, to people like, Roger Pearson and Willis Carto and the whole eugenics set that came out of Edinburgh, Scotland, which the self-proclaimed king of eugenics, Alex Jones, never seems to mention the IAAEE there. Very important piece of the eugenics puzzle. And often one that just gets glazed over, So here we go. Chapter 19, Luther and the Rose. In the 14th century, that region of Europe we know today as Germany consisted of numerous independent principalities and city-states. By that time, several of those principalities had emerged as the primary centers of Brotherhood activity in Europe. With most of that activity concentrated in the central German state of Hesse, in Germany and elsewhere, the Brotherhood and some of its most advanced initiates had become known by the Latin name, the Illuminati, which means the illuminated or the enlightened ones. One of the Illuminati's most important branches in Germany was the mystical Rosicrucian organization. Rosicrucianism was first introduced in Germany by the Emperor Charlemagne in the early 9th century AD. Germany's first official Rosicrucian lodge was established in the city of Worms in the German state of Hesse in the year 1100 AD. Rosicrucians achieved fame for their dedication to alchemy, their complex mystical symbols, and their secret degrees of initiation. The links between the Illuminati and early Rosicrucians were quite intimate in that advancement through the Rosicrucian degrees often resulted in admittance to the Illuminati. A number of Rosicrucian histories mistakenly state that the Rosicrucians did not begin their existence until the year 1614, the year in which German Rosicrucians published a dramatic pamphlet in Hesse announcing their presence and inviting people to join them. One reason this mistake is so commonly made and why the Rosicrucian order has been difficult to trace as one consecutive existence is a policy the order adopted of engaging in 108-year cycles of activity and inactivity. That's very key. Yeah, they go off and on. According to the regulation, each major branch of the Rosicrucian order was required to establish an official date of its founding. From that date, each branch was to then compute successive 108-year periods. The first period would be a time of well-publicized outward activity during which the branch's existence would be made widely known to the public, and the branch would openly recruit new members. The next period was to consist of concealed silent activity in which there was to be no publicity and no one outside of the members' immediate families would be admitted to membership. Each Rosicrucian branch would then alternate between these two phases every 108 years. As Rosicrucian bodies switched back and forth between their outward and hidden phases, it seemed to observers that Rosicrucian orders were appearing and disappearing in history. According to Dr. Lewis of Amorc, AMORC, which is the American Rosicrucian Order, just why this new regulation was brought into effect is not known. The Illuminati and the Rosicrucians were major powers behind a new wave of religious movements during the Plague Years. One of the earliest of those movements was a mystical religion known as the Friends of God. The Friends of God appeared in Germany in the same year that the Black Death first struck Europe. The Friends organization was founded by a banker named Rulman Merswin, who had begun his financial career early in life and had made a sizable fortune from it. According to Merswin, in the year 1347, he was approached by a stranger claiming to be a friend of God. The identity of the mysterious stranger was never revealed. He must have been a Jew. I'm joking. I'm a friend of God, right? You know, only the Jews know God, right? Because it's, you know, monotheism, Akhenaten, right? The identity of the mysterious stranger was never revealed by Merswin, leading to suspicion that Merswin had merely invented him. It appears, however, that Merswin's friend was quite real and quite influential, as evidenced by the sudden change in Merswin and by the considerable support that the Friends movement was able to get so quickly. During one of the earliest encounters, Merswin's mysterious friend stated that he had had many mystical revelations directly from God, and that Merswin had been chosen to disseminate those revelations to the rest of the world. Merswin was deeply impressed. After that meeting, Merswin gave up his banking business, took leave of the world, and devoted himself and his personal fortune to spreading the new religion which the mysterious stranger was bringing him. As it turns out, what the stranger caused Merswin to create was another branch of the Brotherhood network. The teachings of the Friends were deeply mystical and were divulged through a system of secret degrees and initiations. History records that records, I'm sorry, let me start that over. It's supposed to be records, not records. History records that illuminated mystics and other Illuminati were among Merswin's principal backers. The teaching of the Friends of God were not only mystical, they were also heavily apocalyptic. The Friends preached a powerful end-of-the-world message to gain converts. Merswin claimed to be the recipient of many supernatural revelations in which he was told that God had grown disgusted with the Pope and the Catholic Church. God was now placing his faith in people like Merswin to carry out his sacred plans. According to Merswin, God was planning to severely punish humanity in the near future because of mankind's increased corruption and sin. Merswin had the sacred duty of preaching the need for everyone to therefore become completely obedient to God. Merswin was not alone in spreading this dire message. Similar prophets also found their way into the Friends movement bearing identical warnings. They all emphasized the need to unwaveringly obey God on the eve of the world's destruction. Merswin and his fellow doomsayers were certainly correct about one thing. The world was just about to undergo a cataclysm. The Black Death was just getting started. The Friends of God attracted a large following in Europe. Adherents were taught a 9-step program to become utterly and unquestioningly obedient to God. They were made to believe that this regimen would save them from the plague and the resulting social devastation occurring around them. And the first step of the program was a sincere confessional to restore health. A properly done confessional can have a highly beneficial effect on an individual, although a poorly done or unnecessary confessional can be damaging. The second step was a resolution by adherents to give up their own will and to submit to an illuminated friend of God who shall be their guide and counselor in the place of God. By the 7th step, a member had completely given up all self-will and had burned all bridges to become completely subservient to the Lord. By the final step, all personal desire was to be destroyed. The individual was to be crucified to the world and the world to them, enjoying only what God does and to wish for nothing else. These teachings were a program to make human beings obedient to an ultimate degree. Members were taught that obedience was a spiritual being's highest calling and something to be striven for as a quest. Merswin's conversion to this mysterious Friends religion was very damaging to him, as it no doubt was to many others. Merswin soon began to suffer strong manic depressive symptoms, the phenomenon of alternately being in a happy state and then inexplicably experiencing mental depression and back and forth. And, I got to say, man, it's been my experience, and you make of this what you will. I can only, again, the things that are true to me, the truest to me, are the things that I've experienced and seen firsthand. And it's probably this way with everybody, but I'll say this, man, that statement right there about Merswin beginning to suffer strong manic depressive symptoms, the phenomenon of alternately being in a happy state and inexplicably experiencing mental depression back and forth. I got to tell you, it's been my experience in my life that the people who I have known who have been the most, and some people just don't know they're brainwashed by a religion or brainwashed by Christianity, but I would say that I can't think of one single person I've ever known in my life that called themselves a Christian or a member of this religion or that religion that wasn't manic depressive. Seriously, it just breeds that. Because these religions and the way they're being presented to us are detrimental to our minds and our brains and the way we are. That's why they're implanted on us. That's why, like many people like myself at a very young age, just felt an instinctive knee-jerk reaction away from these things. I'm blown away by that. I don't know how. I just can't tell you. How did I know, folks? How did I know when I would see, or I would go to church and I would see church people and stuff on the few times I went to church? My parents didn't make me go to church. My parents didn't go to church on a regular basis, but, sometimes you'd have to go with, the neighbors, or you'd have to go with, your friend's family, or you'd have to go with, your cousins or whatever have you, And I don't, at a very young, early age, I just knew it was bullshit. I just knew it. I didn't want anything to do with it. At a very early age, I knew it. I don't know. I don't know how I knew that. I don't know how I was so dead on at 7. You know, what kid at 7 years old knows, may even been earlier than that. Shit, first grade. I can remember the first time I went to church with a neighbor friend in first grade, and you know, they gave me the, you know, where they save your soul and all that stuff. I'm like, it was just weird. And I was always instinctively just knee-jerkish away from religions at a very early age. But I got to tell you, every person I've ever known that has been called themselves a Christian or this, that, and the other has been a manic depressive. It's just unbelievable, the statistics on that. Probably many of you have experienced that as well. In Merswin, these symptoms became severe, and they were erroneously perceived by his followers as a sign of religious transformation. Many people today would recognize such symptoms as an indication that Merswin was connected to a repressive influence. In this case, the corrupted brotherhood and probably his mysterious friend. During his life in the Friends movement, Merswin continued to claim many mystical experiences, including joint revelations with his friend. In one of those revelations, Merswin was told to use his money to buy an island in Strasbourg for use as a friend's retreat. Oh, that must have been great, dude. You know? Oh, my friend, my imaginary friend over here who told me to start this religion also told me I must buy an island, and all of you must go with me, and our religion must pay for it. Yes. I mean, my God. That's greatness. Strasbourg was Merswin's home city and is located by the southwestern French-German border. 5 years later, Merswin had another joint revelation in which he was told to turn the whole Friends operation over to an organization called the Order of St. John, which governed the Friends movement afterward. So he was told by this entity to turn it over to the Order of St. John, which we know as the Order of St. John of Jerusalem, correct? The Knights of Malta, right? Yes, my friend told me to now turn it over to the priest class. Here you go. That's what's always happened. They pose as, you know, God, a God or the God. They always tend to say that they're the only one. Yeah, put no other gods before me. Well, okay. I thought there could only be one God. So how can we put another one before you if there are other than that, you know, it's an indicator there's more than one, right? And they always come down and they use their hocus pocus and their smoke and their fucking pyrotechnics, and it looks like a Kiss show, and, you know, Ace Frehley shooting fucking rockets out of the end of his Les Paul, and, you know, these fucking twits are like, oh yeah, this is God. This is you know, I don't know any better. And then boom, they get a person, a man, to create a religion from a divine experience with God. And then in the end, they absorb it back into their power structure. It's genius. They've done this endlessly through time. And anyone who doesn't see that is just flat trying to ignore it intentionally because they don't want to know it. Because it undoes all the bullshit of their programming through their religion and everything else their whole lives. Wake up. It's not too late to get a clue. Clues are still going real cheap right now. I mean, we got a special going on right now here at the Global Reality. 2-for-1 clues. You can get 2 clues for the price of 1. Real cheap. Real cheap. Folks, it's cheaper than the cost of a cup of coffee, folks. You get a membership, folks. It's cheaper than the cost of a cup of coffee a day, folks. That's all it is. You can get a clue, folks. Just like me, I got a clue. I got a clue that I got my my hand up Charlie Sheen's ass. Yeah, it's great. I've seen his hernia, folks. You know that, though. Seriously, it's not too late for you to get a clue if you still want to get one. The Friends of God religion was one of many mystical movements that proliferated during the plague years. These movements were usually Christian in nature, but they advertised themselves as an alternative to the Catholic Church and attracted many disgruntled Catholics on that basis. This began to split apart the Christian world. Unfortunately, the split did not mean that the Christians were returning to Jesus' maverick teachings. The new mystical religions only strengthened the emphasis on obedience and apocalypticism. This began to drive many people out of religion altogether and helped lay the foundation for the radical materialism which began to arise out of Germany shortly thereafter. The Friends of God and other mystical practices of the time became a juggernaut, which brought about one of the greatest challenges ever faced by the Catholic Church, the Protestant Reformation of Martin Luther. Luther began his famous ecclesiastical rebellion in the early 1500s. By that time, the Catholic Church had fallen into the hands of Pope Leo X, the son of Lorenzo de' Medici. Lorenzo de' Medici was the head of a wealthy international banking house in Florence, Italy. The Medici family had become involved with the papacy a generation earlier when the Medicis financed an archbishop who later became the schismatic anti-pope. The Medicis were awarded the task of collecting taxes and tithes that were due to this pope. The Medicis operated a far-flung network of collectors and sub-collectors to accomplish this undertaking. The fees earned from this operation helped the Medici family make the Medici family one of the wealthiest and most influential banking houses in Europe. The involvement of profit-motivated bankers in church affairs transformed many spiritual activities of the Catholic Church into a business enterprise. Uh-oh. Red alert, folks, red alert. Yeah, red alert indeed. They're getting into some of that. See, now we're getting into some of that territory that Jones won't touch. Yeah. Oh, he's shitting himself now. You better get some toilet paper. No, see, yeah, here we go. Because this is key, man. This is key. These fucking banksters who Jones tells you, they're at the tip of the spear, folks. They're at the top of the pyramid. Bankers, folks, all there is to it. Bilderbergers, bankers, eugenicists, they're all the same thing. It's real slick, but unfortunately for you, there are some of us out here who actually have done our own research. So here's the key thing here. It is 100% beyond any shadow of a doubt that the church and the bankers are hand in glove. And you can't talk about one without talking about the other. That is a fact. Fact, not debatable. You cannot talk about the bankers without talking about the priest class. You cannot talk about the bankers without talking about the church. And this, to me, is one of the key smoking guns that just nails yet another one of the million coffins in the coffin of Alex Jones, is the fact that he doesn't mention or tell you how intimately connected the Catholic order, the Jesuit order is, and everything else with the banking system. So let me read that for you again. The involvement of profit-motivated bankers in church affairs transformed many spiritual activities of the Catholic Church into a business enterprise. And Mr. Jones, you are a part of that business enterprise, and you know it. You know it, I know it, everybody knows it now. Everybody knows it. That's great. You know who his core audience is now? 15, 16, 17-year-old kids. I'm not kidding. I got friends that are teachers and stuff, and they tell me about seeing, 16-year-old high school kids. That's really his demographic now, which is super duper. You're young and stupid and really easily influenced at that age anyway, So he can have them. He can have them. I don't want fucking 15, 16-year-olds listening to my show anyway. I get messages from people all the time, oh, I want to play your show in my house, and I want to play it in my house when I got grandkids around, but I can't because you cuss all the time. Well, that's a moral faux pas on your part, not mine. You know what I mean? Just because your morals don't allow you to play something like around, certain people, that's not my bad. It shouldn't make me have to shift what I do, because you feel you have a moral objection to this, I don't claim to be a family show. I never have. Family show, folks. Family show. It's a family show here, folks. Now we don't allow you to cuss on this show. It's family show. Family show. Every time somebody cusses on Jones Show, it's family show, family show. God damn it, it's a family show. Give me an enchilada, fuck. Yeah, I don't claim to be a family show. This is a show for the people. It's a show for people who want it real. No nonsense, no bullshit, no spin, straight up fucking shaken, not stirred. You know what I mean? And that's what it is. And if that limits my reach, these recordings will be around for a lot longer than I am. And, maybe once they're of age, you can turn them on to my work. But, I'm just not going to censor myself or anything else. But, it is unbelievable to me, this campaign to not show the Catholic order and the Jesuits and all this stuff as being hand in glove in the power structure with the bankers. I mean, this is a very cold and calculated and well laid out operation that Jones and the rest of the phony truth movement, patriot movement are engaging in. It's unbelievable. This is a full-blown op. For example, Catholics believe in the importance of paying indulgences. An indulgence is a money paid to compensate for sin. When paid in conjunction with a properly done confessional, monetary penance can often be effective in relieving. Monetary penance can often be effective in relieving guilt, especially if the money is used to assist the injured party. Most indulgences, however, went into church coffers. Medici collectors were more often concerned with how much money a person could pay than whether or not the penance achieved any spiritual benefit from paying it. This is really where you have the rise of the mob. Actually, what the mob has always sort of done. Understandably, many Catholics grumbled, and their discontent helped pave the way for Martin Luther. History books tell us that Martin Luther was a German Catholic priest and an educator. He had begun his career as a monk in the Augustinian order and worked his way up to holding the chair of a biblical study at the University of Wittenberg in the German state of Saxony. As a Catholic priest, Luther was a subject to the strict regimen imposed upon all clergy of the church. That included regular attendance at confessional. In Catholic confessional, a person tells a priest in confidence of wrongs that the confessor has committed. This is designed to help unburden a person spiritually. As already mentioned, a properly done confessional has a positive effect, and interestingly, it does appear to be necessary at some point for nearly everyone's spiritual advancement. By Luther's day, however, confessionals were often done improperly or unnecessarily, so that people often felt little relief. Right, you got to keep going back and back, right, and keep paying the penance of the church every time. This is how they built the empire, folks. You understand? Luther eventually found going to confessional difficult. He had already come to hate the angry, condemning God of the Catholic religion, and as a result, he began to lose his faith in the Catholic way to salvation. There was, however, another equally important reason why Luther was having such difficulty in confessional. He had committed acts which he felt unable or unwilling to confess. Luther claims that he tried to purge himself of every conceivable sin, but some acts still eluded his memory when it came time to divulge them to his confessor. In part because of this, Luther did not feel himself advancing spiritually, and he despaired over ever achieving salvation. He felt compelled to seek another path to spiritual recovery that would not force him to endure the uncomfortable confessionals. Although Luther voiced many legitimate criticisms of the Catholic Church and claimed that he was trying to reestablish the primitive Christian Church of Jesus, Luther was, to an extent, a man driven by the demons of unconfessed wrongs. As a result, he helped create a new form of Christianity that only further departed from the true teachings of Jesus. Despite the East Roman corruption of Jesus' teachings and the brutal methods of the Inquisition, Catholicism during Luther's time still retained several important elements of Jesus' maverick lessons. For example, the Catholic Church continued to preach that salvation was up to the individual to achieve. It taught further the importance of doing good works, the need to confess sin when sin had been committed, and the importance of rectifying wrongs or compensating for them. The Catholic Church emphasized that man had the free will to either accept or reject salvation, that salvation could not be imposed upon anyone against his or her will, even by a monotheistic God, and that all people were endowed with the right to seek salvation. While Catholic teaching still had many serious flaws and lacked a true science of the Spirit, these ideas reflected some of the truth and decency which were at the heart of Jesus' message. Luther's key to reform would have been to reinforce the good tenets still alive in Catholicism while eliminating the blatant commercialism of the East Roman changes to Christian doctrine. That was not the road Luther chose to take. He taught instead the false idea that a person has no personal control over his spiritual salvation. Luther convinced people that salvation is dependent entirely upon the grace of a monotheistic God. There was only one action an individual could do to obtain God's grace, said Luther, and that was to believe in Jesus as Savior and to accept Christ's agony and crucifixion as penance for one's own sins. Luther's curious notion that Jesus' crucifixion can be penance for other people's sin is partially based on the concept of karma. Karma is the idea that all acts in this universe eventually come back at a person in the future. People frequently invoke the idea of karma when they ask, "What did I do to deserve this?" In modern science, karma has been expressed as for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. In monotheism, karma usually comes in the form of God's inevitable punishments for sin and rewards for good. On a personal level, the principle of karma seems to hold true in the sense that the world one creates, good or bad, through action or inaction, is ultimately the world that comes back to one. Poor ethics seem to boomerang in the form of spiritual degradation. A major benefit of a properly done confessional is that it actually seems to break the negative boomerang effect, and it will thereby help start a person back on the road to spiritual recovery. Because Luther's confessionals were unsatisfactory, he felt compelled to invent another way to escape the karma cycle enforced by the rewards and punishment of his monotheistic God. Luther therefore developed the idea that God would allow Jesus' pain and suffering on the cross to become the boomerang for everybody. In other words, by believing in Jesus, you will not spiritually suffer for the bad things you have done in the past because Jesus has already suffered for you. I'm sorry I had to laugh at that. It's just fucking ridiculous, man. This is a wonderfully magical notion, but it's hardly a philosophy of responsibility, nor is it fair to Jesus that he should expect to take the brunt of everyone else's wrongs. More importantly, Luther's solution simply does not work. Many people do feel and act better after proclaiming Christ because they've acknowledged their spiritual existences in a way that they have had not done before, and they often begin more ethical behavior as a result. But their act of belief has not caused them to overcome the many other barriers which stand in the way of complete spiritual recovery. Protestants continued to practice confession, although it was no longer considered vital for achieving salvation. Practical knowledge of the Spirit was also largely ignored. Luther's method amounted to a quickie salvation, a simple act of belief. Luther taught that salvation was guaranteed by God for as long as a person continued to adhere to a belief in Jesus as Savior. Luther's ideas were clearly mystical. This is not surprising when we consider that Luther had been greatly influenced by some of the mystical religions which were so popular in his country. Luther's primary mentor in the Augustinian order, Johann von Staupitz, preached a theology containing many elements from the writings of the prominent German mystics Heinrich Suso and Johann Tauler. Tauler was one of the most widely read mystics of the 14th century, and he was associated with the Friends of God movement. Luther became an avid reader of Tauler's works. Evidence of a more direct connection of Luther to the Brotherhood network is found in Luther's personal seal. Luther's seal consisted of his initials on either side of two Brotherhood symbols, the rose and the cross. The rose and cross are the chief symbols of the Rosicrucian order. The word Rosicrucian itself comes from the Latin words rose and crucius, cross. Both during his life and after, Luther counted among his supporters important individuals and families who were active in the Illuminati and in Rosicrucianism. One of them was Philip the Magnanimous, head of the powerful royal house of Hesse, whose descendants would later hold important leadership positions in Brotherhood organizations, especially in German Freemasonry, as well as later, as we shall see later. As one of the prime leaders of the Reformation, Philip the Magnanimous found the Protestant University of Marburg and organized a political alliance against the Catholic German Emperor Charles V. After Luther's death, his religion was supported by Sir Francis Bacon. Go figure that, Sir Francis Bacon. William Shakespeare, Sir Francis Bacon, Freemasonry, Illuminati, blah, blah, blah. My goodness. And he was also at one time the Lord Chancellor of England. Bacon was also the highest executive of the Rosicrucian Order in Great Britain. One of Bacon's greatest contributions to the Reformation arose from his efforts as the coordinator of a project to create an authorized English Protestant Bible under his King James I Bible, known as the King James Version. This was released in 1611 and became the most widely used Bible in the English-speaking and Protestant world. Luther and his supporters created the single largest schism in Christian history. Enormous power was wrestled from the Roman Catholic Church. The Protestant sects today account for about 1/3 of all Christians worldwide and nearly half of all Christians in North America. The Catholic Church did not allow this to happen without a fight, however. The Catholics launched a counter-reformation in an unsuccessful attempt to squelch the Protestant heresies. Leading the counter-reformation was, interestingly, a new Brotherhood-style organization created for the purpose. The Society of Jesus, better known as the Jesuits. The Jesuit order was founded in 1540 by a soldier-turned-cleric named Ignatius of Loyola. The Jesuits were a Catholic secret society with degrees of initiation, periods of probation, and many secret rituals. It was also militant. Jesuits were encouraged to adopt a soldierly spirit. Jesuits were encouraged to adopt a soldierly spirit of loyalty to their captain, Jesus. Ignatius was chosen to be the first general of the order in April 1741. The image of Jesus as a quasi-military captain may seem rather humorous to anyone familiar with Jesus' teachings, but the image was helpful in making the Jesuit order an effective cadre for combating the Protestants. Although it is true that the Reformation led the human race further away from spiritual understanding, it did have one very beneficial effect. It helped break the back of the Catholic Inquisition. The Inquisition had been one of the most oppressive institutions to burden the human spirit ever. Inquisitors meddled in nearly every human endeavor, from religion to the sciences to the arts. The Inquisition enforced some of the most hopelessly antiquated scientific thought by threatening people with torture and death. It hindered the development of many of the fine arts, notably theater. It probably did not greatly matter what the Protestants taught. They would have still been able to bring enormous relief to Europe as long as they were able to reduce the power of the Catholic Inquisition. There was an eventual price to be paid for this benefit, however, and that was the price of an ever-deepening materialism. Philosophies of humanism, rationalism, and similar ideologies with a materialistic bent took on renewed vigor in the Reformation climate. Most importantly, many of the positive effects of the Reformation were offset by the fact that Protestantism was yet one more human faction placed in unresolvable conflict with other factions over erroneous religious issues. Luther himself contributed to this by hinting that the Pope represented the forces of the Antichrist. The result had been more war, this time between Catholics and Protestants, notably today in Ireland. Despite the Brotherhood Network's continued pattern of generating conflict the centuries discussed in this chapter, it is important to note that a maverick influence had manifested itself in the Rosicrucian organization by the early 1600s. The Rosicrucian goal of individual spirit recovery and some of its teachings were remarkably similar to early maverick goals. Modern Rosicrucian literature from the United States continues to reflect some of this positive influence by attempting to propagate a more scientific view of a spiritual phenomenon and by teaching that humans can intelligently control their lives. Unfortunately, modern Rosicrucianism still contains many custodial elements which will prevent adherents from achieving full spiritual rehabilitation. Although Rosicrucians contributed to the success of the Reformation, they did not achieve much fame until the year 1614, when, as noted earlier, a lodge of German Rosicrucians began a phase of outward activity by mass-producing a leaflet announcing the presence of Rosicrucians in Hesse' large principality, Hesse Castle. The pamphlet created a stir by urging people to abandon their false teachers, such as the Pope, Galen, and Aristotle. The pamphlet also told the story of a fictitious character, Christian Rosenkreutz, to symbolize the founding of the Rosicrucian order. The pamphlet is still best known by its shortened name, the Fama Fraternis. The full title of the leaflet, translated in English, is Universal and General Reformation of the Whole Wide World Together, with a noted fraternity of the Rosy Cross inscribed to all the learned and rulers of Europe. Despite the quaint, high-sounding tone, the leaflet's title revealed a deadly serious intent to create a broad, universal changes in human society. By the time of the Fama Fraternis, the Brotherhood Network had already launched its program to bring about this transformation. For the next several hundred years, the Brotherhood Network supplied the world with leaders who inspired and led violent revolutionary movements in all parts of the world in an effort to bring about a massive transmutation of human society. They succeeded, and we live today in the world they created. Well, that's don't get much truer than that. That's the end of chapter 19. We'll begin tomorrow reading chapter 20, A New Aristocracy. That's a great place to leave off. Yeah, I couldn't agree with them more. We are living now in the result of the great work. I mean, we're living in the middle of it. What we're hoping to do is that by now, after centuries of this going on, we can finally show the people of the world this is going on, and still find time to find a way to stop this. And I still believe that if we just continue to push and continue to get people to try and look at this, that one day people will understand what they've been up against, and they'll say no more. Not on my watch. Not while I'm here. And it's not going to take it. It doesn't have to be a bloody revolution. It doesn't have to be. That's what they want. They want bloodshed. What they don't want is us uniting as a people together without violence, without bloodshed, and throwing their asses the hell out for good. That's what they don't want. They also don't want us to become free spiritual entities, and they're doing everything they can to keep that from happening. But again, it's all out of the bottle now. Tough shit, guys. You thought it was only going to be a wash. You thought it was all over with. You thought you had us. Well, sorry. You're going to have to start this reset button back at 0 and kill every one of us living on this planet right now and go underground and come back out and repopulate the earth for this to go your way now. It's just all there is to it. Anyway, folks, we need your support right now bad, more than ever. It's been abysmal, with the exception of a couple of people over the past couple of weeks. So please support us if you can. The chip-in banner is there for the bills for the month. Also use the donate button. You want to help us reach the rest of our way so we can get the Secret Right Volume 2 out by May 5th, 2011. Please do so, folks. Use the donate button for that. My name is Josh Reeves. I love each and every one of you. We'll see you next time. You guys have a great night. Take care.